Good now afternoon, everyone. I am watching the virtual doorway as it brings in now 70 people, 74. It's amazing how many people we can get together virtually. It's one of the things that's a positive byproduct of a meeting where everyone can be there. So I'm watching the room fill. The room is now filled with 140 people and still counting. And we'll get started in just a minute or a few seconds when the numbers seem to be stabilized. Okay, I think we're about there. Hi, everybody. Rick Page here. I want to welcome you to what stands as an official faculty meeting and is also a town hall for faculty and staff. Appreciate all of you joining us today. This is a special meeting today in that we have a very special guest and really part of the family. We're going to first be highlighting Provost Prelock, and then we'll be moving on with the rest of our faculty and staff meeting at 5:30. Provost Prelock needs no introduction. I can comment she was one of the first people I met as I was first talking to people about having the great honor of serving as your dean. She was the dean of the College of Nursing and Health Sciences and now has ascended to the role of provost of the University of Vermont. And she has graciously agreed to give us some of her very valuable time to address our faculty and staff, as well as to take questions. I will mention that the Q&A feature is open, and please go ahead and use that. We also had online an email where at least one question has come through already. But with that, I'll turn things over to the Provost of UVM, Dr. Patty Prelock.
Thank you so much, Dean Page. It's great to be here and to be with my colleagues. Some of you may not know, but my secondary appointment is in the Department of Pediatrics. So my other boss is Louis First, in addition to being in communication sciences and disorders. Anyways, I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to be here. And I thought I would start out with a couple of shout outs. You know, we had 3 endowed professorships in 2020. Dr. Glenn Goldman, who's the inaugural holder of the Rogers and Nancy Follansbee Professor in Dermatology, which I was able to attend, and that was very exciting. Congratulations, Glenn. Dr. Thomas Peterson, the inaugural holder of the Morris Goldman Professorship of Family Medicine. I was able to be at that one as well. And most recently and exciting was Margaret Tandau, the inaugural holder of the Richard L. Gamelli Green and Gold Professorship in Surgery. And I was privileged to be on that one as well. So the College of Medicine has been pretty extraordinary in recognizing and using donors to recognize the incredible work of your faculty. So congratulations to you. Also, I did peek in on your white coat ceremony and last year your match day, and I do have to say you've done some of the most creative virtual experiences that I've seen. So I'm really proud of that work and how you're really trying to make it special for your students. And I'm also on your LCME committee with the leadership of Jan Carney, and wow, the amazing work of the chairs is incredible in addition to all the other work you're doing. So I have a double appreciation for that. And then there's a whole group of you who are contributing to our COVID experience. I never thought I was going to be a provost in the middle of a global pandemic, but we are fortunate to be in the state of Vermont. We're fortunate to have Mark Levine, who's also one of yours, working with us on a daily basis. He takes my calls almost every day. The clinical care that you're providing, the testing through Deborah Leonard's lab, the public health that you provide through Jan Carney and her guidance to us, and research, as well as Beth Kirkpatrick, who've all been really wonderful supports to President Garamella and myself in terms of making our decisions. So a big shout out to all of the incredible faculty and staff at the Larner College of Medicine. I also know that it's been a tough year. In addition to the pandemic, the financial impacts with the salary cut was really challenging for our staff, our administrators, and our non-represented faculty. So a shout out to all the faculty at Alcom who actually modeled support of the institution, taking your salary cut this year. I know there's questions about what is that going to look like next year. I wish I could answer that. I have no idea. We're working hard to bring in a class that will help support us and do some reorganization that will allow cuts. We've already done about $11.5 million in cuts to support centers and academic unit staff, and we're still at about 9.4 million that we're trying to find to balance our budget. So these are challenges, some COVID, but some are struggles from structural deficits that UVM has had for a long time. So I know people have had childcare stress, they've had stress in general, and pay cuts. In terms of our union negotiations for our represented faculty, there's not much I can give you on that because those are confidential. They're meeting again at the end of this week to see where we are. They know there's pressure on because of the contributions so many have made across the campus. I'm hoping that they will also be able to make their contribution. We'll know more about our financial situation in February because our numbers are actually averaged over fall and spring. And clearly we have about a 460 student decrease that we're anticipating. And a lot of that is in out-of-state students, which has a bigger margin for tuition. But with all of that said, I think it's really important to think about, the ultimate vision and where we hope to be. And you've probably heard or read President Garamella's focus on how are we going to amplify our impact. And he has 3 strategic imperatives that he's really focused on, and that is student success and access. And that's one of the reasons that we held firm on not raising tuition, but also increasing opportunities for internships, research, service learning, study abroad, although that has been delayed because of our current COVID experience. But there's still lots of things that we are doing that engage students' high impact. And actually, the College of Medicine is a significant player in that. I know many of you take undergraduates in your labs. I do as well. I have 7 right now. And that kind of gives us an edge. And many of you are providing other opportunities for our students, so I appreciate that. The second one is really investing in our distinctive research strengths. And this is the focus on creating a sustainable environment that develops healthy societies and a healthy environment. 2 areas where the Larner College of Medicine has a significant role. And we are really leveraging our existing strengths in the Larner College of Medicine, as well as our other colleges, but creating opportunities for multiple disciplines to engage. And the Larner College of Medicine is really effectively doing that. And then we have a commitment to our land grant mission, and that is really giving back and answering the questions that the community has. Already, we're doing a lot of that in public health, but we're doing it in the opportunities you give to your medical students to do projects in the community. And then, of course, we're establishing an office of engagement so that we can have a front door. And the Larner College of Medicine already does so much engagement, and how can we expand and build on that? So those are the 3 areas that we're focusing on, and I just want you to understand the Provost Office also has academic success goals that we have reviewed with all the deans, and they were to review with faculty and staff as well. Dean Page have seen these. They're 3 priority areas that are actually totally aligned with the president's strategic vision. So his first one was student success and access. For us, it's teaching and learning. So students can only be as successful as their faculty are, and how are we supporting them, mentoring them, giving them the professional development that they need, as well as doing recruitment around things that are really important to us, like increasing diversity of perspectives. So I very much appreciate the inclusive excellence plans that the Larner College of Medicine has. Knowledge creation is our framework for the distinctive research strengths. And we have 3 areas that we're really focusing on, and that's really enhancing our research profile. So greater external recognition of faculty, identifying growth potential in doctoral programs, opportunities for non-STEM doctoral programs, and cultivating staff talent and giving them opportunities. And then with our work with Kirk Dombrowski, our VP for research, really increasing interdisciplinary research areas and enhancing success in our external funding, which we actually had, what, a 25% increase this year. And again, great thanks to the Larner College of Medicine, whose faculty really rock when it comes to funding. And then our last area is engagement, and we have 3 goals in that area, which fits with a land grant mission. So really looking at evidence-based approaches to contemporary issues, educating our citizens so that we look at lifelong learning, and then preparing our students to be engaged. You know, the president does have an ambitious goal. I'd love to see us as a small R1 institution that has a comprehensive plan, and we're working on that. There will be more about that. Kirk Dombrowski has looked at creating greater staffing for grant proposals, revitalizing our core facilities, doing some NSF funding pipeline on early career faculty, and some increased connections with the foundation and corporate pieces. And he's really doing an incredible job. We also have moved the Gund Institute under the Vice President of Research Office. Although we are collaborating really closely, we felt it was really important to now bring all the centers and institutes together. So I'm going to stop there because I want to make sure that I can answer some questions. And I see there's one question up already. And are the UVMMC nurses parking in Jeffords lot also paying for parking? I don't believe they are. I don't think anyone is paying for parking this semester. But I'll have to check on that. I know there's a relationship with UVMMC, so I don't know if they're paying for something for the nurses to park, but we've kind of given them some lots, but I can let
Provost Prelock, if I may, I might jump in and because we have had parking change and my own spot has moved over there as well. My understanding is that we allowed medical center employees in the setting of the pandemic and not wanting to be on public transportation to use lots that were empty.
Yeah.
As we are moving, that my understanding was the medical center personnel were going to be moving out. I can at least tell you in terms of the person who asked that question, my understanding was there were enough spots for everybody who wasn't given, who's now in Jeffords. And if that's not the case, please send me a personal email. I'll pass it on to people who are handling this, because indeed the people that were using that lot for the need that we had need to be vacating to allow for the university, for the mainly the college parkers. So we'll take care of that, Provost Prelock.
Okay, thank you. So Ira, good to see your question. Is there an anticipated time frame for the conclusion of negotiations? Oh my goodness. As you know, the contract ended June 30th, so we're way past that. We are waiting for the financial proposal back from the union. I believe they're meeting on October 16th, if that's right, Friday. We'll see what they put forward, and it really depends if there's any movement at all. You know, the next steps are, if there is no movement, then you go to impasse and you have a mediator, et cetera. So I don't anticipate we're going to have any answer until after the first of the year and maybe into spring, which doesn't make any of us happy, I know. But that's about all I can say right now, because as you know, we have to follow the guidelines of negotiation. I'm not on the negotiating team, but they do update me, and I do know they're meeting on Friday. Thank you for that question. Any other questions? And I know we're at about 12:15, and I know you have a pretty busy agenda.
I saw one come in about parking, and I'm going to take you off the hook on that, Provost Prelock, and we'll follow up about that. Something about gutters and potentially parking in the other areas. And Eric Gagnon with my office is very much engaged in parking, and I think we can give answers to any questions about parking.
Perfect, thank you. I love it when somebody takes something off my list. Thank you, Dean Page.
My pleasure. I avoid parking whenever I can because it's a third rail, but this time we do need to take responsibility for the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can't thank the Larner College of Medicine again for everything that you do for the university. I know it's been a tough year, but I want us to think forward about the possibilities. We are doing extraordinarily well, and I think that will help us in our recruitment, but we don't want to get lax, and so that's why Deborah Leonard, Beth Kirkpatrick, and Jan Carney keep me on the straight and narrow and remind me of things that we need to keep doing, especially with flu season and the cold weather. But Jan, I'm looking into an outdoor ice rink to get the students outside and bundle up and not be in their dorm rooms or the residential halls. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much, Provost Prelock. And I don't see there's one question about the Firestone building and how that might fit into UVM as a whole. And I will put a placeholder. I'm going to be talking about that in some detail, but this is a very valuable question in terms of the university perspective.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. And I think that although we're not in a position to be building buildings, one thing that Dean Page has been very effective at is finding a way to fund this and really investing in our research agenda. It is one of the three legs of the stool that the president is really focused on. If we want to keep moving us forward, research is something we have to invest in. So we want our faculty and staff who are engaged in research to have access to those spaces that they need to continue to move the dial. And you've proven again and again that you are able to make a difference. So I think that's an important piece for us. And I know you've used development funds and your own funds to really invest in something that you believe, and I believe is strongly important, especially with your connections with, actually in my field in autism, with psychology, with nursing and health sciences, with SEMS, the College of Engineering and Mathematical Sciences, with CAS. There's so much interconnection among all of us. It's really important.
And I might add, also, if I may, Provost Prelock, how much we appreciate the fact that you and President Garamella have invested the $4 million that's coming from Central University as this the only building project really that is being supported right now.
Yeah, so I see there's another question about Central viewing the LCOM integration into the ongoing discussions regarding university-wide administrative and academic reorganization. Another great question. The academic side of reorg has, the committee has just sent President Garamella and I a report, so we're meeting with them next week to review it and then give some feedback, and then we'll work on a plan to really outline what might be the next steps and how is it a strategic move and not just a cost-cutting move. For us, it's much more, if we want to be this R1 institution that can invest in key areas of research strengths and be affordable and accessible to students and provide a high quality experience and then meet our land grant contributions, we have to think about how we utilize our resources and invest. In terms of the administrative reorganization, we're working with all the colleges to look at shared services models for efficiency, but also effectiveness when one person is out, making sure you have people who are co-trained. So I see this as a university-wide piece. And Dean Page and I have been talking about shared services for in the business framework and in medicine, but we're also the models that have come out and the suggestion for reorg have had some interesting ideas with the Larner College of Medicine. So more to come. We haven't had a chance to really talk to the committee at all about their recommendation. It will be a process. For some of the other undergraduate colleges, they have some reorganization that they have to do within colleges before we can think of a giant size reframing, but it has to be for the right reasons. It has to be strategic. It has to meet the goals that we want and carry us to a vision of really investing in our outstanding excellence in research and academic framework. Are there more broad-reaching plans, salary and benefit cuts that will be applied to staff moving forward? Not that I'm aware of. Our staff took a big hit. That was the hardest thing. And we're hoping that that doesn't have to continue. But again, we won't know much until February after drop and add of this class, and then what our recruiting class is going to look like next year, and how we're using other revenue generation opportunities. I know it was a big sacrifice for our staff, and that hit hard, and we're hoping that the represented faculty recognize that and can also contribute. Will UVM be allowing on-campus interviews for our recruitments? That is another question.
Yes.
So, gosh, very difficult to do on-campus interviews now. I'm thinking, as I spoke with the deans yesterday, that when we get down to the final candidate that we're making an offer to, then we can work through that. But now is a dangerous time for us to be bringing any visitors because it will be very difficult for them to follow the quarantine rules, and they're not following the same testing protocol, especially while our students are on campus. And as you see the upticks everywhere in COVID, I'm being very cautious, but we're looking at exceptions when we know we want to offer someone a final position. Okay, I think that's it.
I'm seeing no more questions. Provost Prelock, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Thank you all for all your hard work. And thank you, Dean Page, for inviting me.
Anytime. You're part of the family.
Thank you. Take care.
We'll see you later. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
So I thought that was very valuable to have our provost join us. I'd now ask for the opportunity to kind of share with you all my own perspective on how things are going. I see a question coming through, but I've got some prepared remarks and even a few slides, and then we've got our leadership group available to answer whatever questions we have, and whatever might be left unanswered, we'll get back with you all. I am delighted to have with me Deans Zala, Deschamps, Cody, and Carney, as well as Dean Margaret Tando. Gordon Jensen is somewhere lost in upstate Maine on a well-deserved break. I'll also mention one thing that faculty meetings actually have to have is the secretary of the faculty maintaining notes and minutes. That's the Secretary of the Faculty is a somewhat ceremonial job that you all on the line may have heard. We're revamping that. This is going to be a term-limited opportunity that actually I get to appoint, but we will be asking for nominations to act as Secretary of the Faculty. For today, Dean Tando offered to serve in that role. I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of get the Larner community together in terms of the faculty and staff to just process and communicate and reflect perhaps on the fact this has been a really tough 7 months. You combine a public health catastrophe, economic collapse, issues with school and childcare, general uncertainty. We've got an election coming up. No matter where you are on that, there's uncertainty. There's frankly been a sense of loss, a sense of grief that's been pervasive. And I think we just need to acknowledge that. You add to that the national reckoning with systemic racism and social injustice. And I don't know when any of us have had a more difficult time in our lives in many ways. I do want to make sure people are aware that in terms of this college and the university, I'm tremendously proud to have joined the college that had our Office of Diversity and Inclusion. In the setting of issues of equity, we have renamed that to be the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We've also reconstituted the Dean's Advisory Committee for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DACTI is what it's been called. This has been in place, but it hasn't been directly connected to me. And now we're reconstituting that, and I am going to have a chunk of time at every time that group meets to maintain that connection and commitment to issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the College of Medicine, as well as the university and our community as a whole. I also want to mention how fortunate we are to have engaged students. And we have the Student National Medical Association, which is traditionally Black medical students, Minority Association for pre-medical students associated with the university itself, our Latino Medical Student Association for the Latinx community, our Asian Pacific American Medical Student Association, and our own Larner Social Justice Coalition, which helps bring together the affinity groups. And frankly, one of the things that attracted me here was getting to know at least one member of the Social Justice Coalition and recognizing the commitment that our students have, and frankly, that these groups make us better, have made our curriculum stronger, and frankly are something we can brag about. The community, the collaboration, the partnership we have, and the fact that they remind us of our duties here in terms of the community, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The other thing I wanted to mention before we go on, just so I can make it clear to you, is how proud I am to be part of this college and this university in many ways. But right here, I'm speaking to the response we've had to COVID, the fact that masking, distancing, hand hygiene, meeting pandemic requirements. We have been a model, our university has been a model, and frankly, our community has been a model, and I'm tremendously proud. I say that in the context of, I'm really worried about what's going to happen in the next weeks and months, and we can't let our guard down. With the holidays coming up, with travel and everything else, we just need to be cognizant of these duties to reemphasize that this is now part of our brand. This is part of professionalism. This is part of who we are, and we just can't let our guard down. Now I'm going to share with you some slides. If I had them here, let me just get them. And that I put together for this occasion. And let me just announce that we have 230 people on the line, and I'm really pleased with the engagement. I'm looking to someone to nod to say that they can see it. People are saying it, great. And there we go. I want to share with you some of the first focusing on the three missions, where we've been, because we're a big group. And what I love about having so many people together, talking together, staff and faculty, is it's impossible to know everything that's going on. It's impossible to even know each other as well as we'd like. It's one of the reasons why we put together our biweekly newsletter, Larner Medicine, and why we really have tried to communicate throughout all this and going forward. First of all, in terms of education, it seems like so long ago that we thought we were going to have match day, and a week or two in advance we had to go online and do it virtual, if you will. At the time when the stay home, stay safe order came through, we've subsequently had match day, graduation. We've continued education throughout, even though some of it we had to suspend clinical. Everyone has pitched in, and it's including our students looking out for other medical schools in the community. We resumed clinical education in June, and we had a white coat ceremony this month. And I have a friend actually a nephew at another medical school in New England, and got to watch him get his white coat. And I know we did it better than that other institution, actually having the students live here, while at least two of the deans were able to witness this, even though they had to put on their coat by themselves. Now, moving ahead in education, we welcome the class of 2024. Here they are with masks and distanced. We have the first year's 3 days and the second year's 2 days, because we can't have them all on campus at once, but we can have one full class on campus. I would remind all of us about LCME coming up, our site visits in April 2021. We began our self-study in September 2019. And throughout this time, we were working to maximize our partnership with UVM Health Network for clinical education. And I would make it known that among the priorities that we've had and we're redoubling in terms of my own priority, my priority for philanthropy include wellness and a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. This was the first day with Dean Zala and me greeting people. And this is one of the reasons why we are successful. This was when I got my test last week or the week before. There was no waiting. I'm in and out in 5 minutes, as are the medical students, the undergrads. And last week, I believe there was one positive among 11,000 tests. In terms of clinical care, as you all know, we eliminated what was called elective care in March. Frankly, we don't do that much elective, but things that we had to put off, that we could put off, we did. We prepared for a large surge that never fully came, although our nursing homes in the community put us under tremendous stress, and our ICUs likewise, and really stepped into the breach. Our own Eric Gagnon helped participate in setting up a field hospital in Essex Junction. We also had one in the Gutterson. Everyone pitched in. A silver lining, if you will, is an even greater increase in our statewide interaction in terms of public health, and certainly our own Dr. Mark Levine, who's been a model in terms of the nation as our Commissioner of Health. Moving forward, we're now better than 90% of our ambulatory volume, somewhere near a third of that, still telemedicine, and haven't we made incredible strides in telemedicine? Our procedural volume is in excess of 80%, and Dean Deschamps might give us more of an updated number than that. Gradual recovery of finances, although the medical group, the health network, the medical center took substantial financial hit, and remaining a real effort in the medical center and the medical group on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And just in case anybody thinks I have someone make my slides for me, I don't. I had these two stock images. I couldn't find them with masks, but just to remind you, when we are seeing patients in person, as I did yesterday, both the patient and the physician are masked, and we're doing everything we can to minimize risk to both the physicians and staff, as well as the patients. In terms of research, everything but non-essential was suspended in March. I'm sorry Gordon isn't here for me to really brag about the job he and others did in an abrupt withdrawal of our anything but our essential personnel, but we still had 120 people, scientists engaged in essential work, either a cell line that just couldn't be left alone, an animal colony or the like, but also COVID-related work. Again, everyone pitched in. Labs contributed PPE and testing media, and the effort around this was inspiring. We gradually resumed activities during the spring. We counted last 53 active COVID-19 research projects. This is a pre-COVID lab. I didn't put the mask on there. And this is the Vermontolator Jason Bates and colleagues, including those in biomedical engineering, developed this low-cost, really very high-tech answer to the potential need for mass ventilation in the setting of a surge. Now, moving ahead, we can take some pride in near 1,000 peer-reviewed papers, books and book chapters. As Provost Prelock mentioned, $105 million in extramural grants last year. That was a 32% increase for the College of Medicine, and representing 58% of all UVM funding. Dr. Stacy Sigmund received a HRSA grant for $6.7 million addressing rural addiction. The NIH awarded Drs. Cushman and Nelson, shown here, celebrating a COBRA for brain health, cardiovascular and brain health. We're all too familiar with these Zoom calls. This is just a Zoom call I was on with the Topman Foundation that, among others, provides support for Mark Nelson's lab. And the last thing I'll mention is this $5.47 million NIH Biomedical Facilities Grant for the Center for Biomedical Shared Resources that Dean Jensen is the PI on. I will emphasize that a commitment to wellness, diversity, equity, and inclusion is likewise an emphasis within our research mission. Our outstanding basic science departments, our PhD faculty, which has just been knocking it out of the park, and our graduate students, for whom we can be really proud. Now, talking about the Biomedical Facilities Grant, that brings up the topic of the Firestone building. And I want to give people an update on that and kind of tell you where we are, and emphasize our future and what the good things we have ahead for us. I want to remind people that in January, when COVID was just something going on that we were barely hearing about, the Board of Trustees for the University of Vermont gave final approval for a $49 million construction project, which was going to break ground in April, this last April, called the Firestone Biomedical Research Building. With the stay home, stay safe order, that construction was put on hold, and all building activities were put on pause by the university as they regrouped. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the only one that was given the green light to continue. Now, the decision to move forward was a tough one that became clear, at least in my mind, that we needed to proceed. I would mention that many people don't know that of that $49 million, $7 million was already spent in pre-construction. I arrived about the time that the board was approving the next step in pre-construction, but it takes a lot of work and money to get to the point where you can consider starting to break ground. So we already spent 7 million of the 49 already. We've already spent that. Given COVID and the fact that nobody was building, a new bid was put out, and to our satisfaction, the bid, instead of being 49, which was what was estimated and actually close to bid out in the first place, when the rebid was down to 44.5 million. So a $4.5 million reduction in the overall cost. And then about a month and a half ago, we heard final word that Dean Jensen's NIH CO6 grant, that core facility grant, was funded for 5.47 million. And I've been asked whether this includes indirects. The bad news is we don't get any indirects with this. This is purely a construction grant. The good news is every dollar you see here goes to construction. So that's just about $5.5 million off the cost of this building. That is a time-limited grant. It has to be spent. And as such, as soon as we received that, we made a decision, frankly, because we believed it was going to be funded. We needed to get an update in the bid before they would finally agree to release the money. We have already raised 10.2 million in philanthropy. And while originally we were only planning to raise 5, we're committing to raise another 10 for this project. And as I mentioned, UVM, our president and provost, had committed most recently $4 million to this project, and that remains committed. This is the only project that President Garamella is behind in terms of construction. The remainder comes from Larner College of Medicine reserves, which I hope to replenish through further philanthropy. I would emphasize these reserves are capital, they're not operating expenses. This is not money that I could have used, even if it were allowed by the university, which it's not, to replenish salary for staff and faculty. At an earlier town hall, I said I would not move forward with this if it was going to be a cost to our compensation and our budget in a very tough year as we have right now, and this has no impact on that. And finally, I'd say this is an investment in our future. I actually am optimistic. I'm not minimizing the things we've gone through. I'm not minimizing the fact that this has been a really tough time, and I don't know how long it's going to last. At the same time, we've got a team, we've got a college, we've got a university that I think has bright things ahead. And in that setting, we need to invest. And I think we need to continue with optimism while we're also doing our best to deal with this pandemic as it's hitting us. So with that, I will open things up to questions. I'm having a bit of a technical challenge, but I think I can see the Q&A and the chat. So, and right now I would like to bring together the group. So we have Bruce Kimball, who's our director of this production. Most of you know Bruce. Bruce, if you can go ahead and give us view of the panel that's here. And we're all here to answer questions. I'm looking and
Dean Page?
Yes.
There were a few questions that came in advance. Do you want me to start with the one related to students?
Yes. So the question is, can you please address if there's any possibility to return to in-person meetings? What number of people could gather in an indoor space for a committee meeting, for example, which could include both in-person and remote access attendees? I could try to give an answer, but we have the expert here. Dean Carney, would you like to comment?
Sure, happy to. I think that the answer is everyone is talking about these things and monitoring it, but there's no green light yet. And you saw earlier from the slides of the students that we're being very cautious and having some students here on certain days. The indoor spaces are especially worrisome. And so that is in the context of we're moving inside, we're coming to flu season, we're seeing increasing cases in the Northeast. So I would say stay tuned, hold that thought, but there's no immediate plans that I'm aware of to open that up.
Thank you very much. And here's one that will probably go to Dean Zala. How are our first year students doing? And if we have an answer, how do we know?
Yes, thank you. So first off, as Senior Associate Dean for Medical Education, I continue to be grateful every day for our amazing students who remain flexible and adaptable throughout all of this, and our incredible faculty and staff who are working so hard behind the scenes to be able to deliver our medical education program. And also just grateful to be in the state of Vermont, given that we have significantly lower rates, which makes that all possible as well. So certainly, you know, we don't have any specific statistical analysis of how our first year students are doing, but again, they impress us every day, and I think they're doing incredibly well given the circumstances. They're marching through the curriculum and in the Foundations of Clinical Science course, which is an 18-week kind of intensive course, and are doing well in that. We seem to have fewer failures than we've had in the past, and that's likely due to incredible collaboration that we have both with our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and College of Medicine Technology Services, and then our academic support both in ODEI and in OMSE. More students than ever took advantage of our Jumpstart VIC or Vermont Integrated Curriculum, and this seems to have potentially impacted the performance in the focus course for our students, and that they're doing really well. A lot of students have reached out to Dr. Moynihan, who's our Director of Academic Achievement, and Dr. Chakowski-Kelly, who plays an academic supportive role in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, really seeking out academic support and participating in our tutoring program. And we've had a record number of students reaching out for well-being support and referrals for therapy, which just speaks to our students' recognition of the need to be proactive in that area. Compliance with the Green and Gold Promise has been super impressive, and compliance with surveillance testing has been near perfect for the first year, so really better than any of us could have expected. And then there's also been great participation in a new program that was a student initiative called the STEP SIB program, which is where our senior students provide mentorship and support to our students in the second year class who are preparing to take their Step 1 exam. And so that's been really wonderful to see as well, and great to see a student initiative that's well supported from our Director of Academic Achievement be really successful. And I think our mentoring program that is run out of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for our underrepresented or our BIPOC students has been really successful. That's in its second year. So I have a chance to engage with the students in the hallway. I also facilitate a professionalism, communication, and reflections course, and I'm also participating in the mentorship program through ODEI. So I have a chance to see the students, and again, I think they're doing really well, especially the challenging circumstances that they're facing as they begin their medical education program. And that's also a testament to our admissions committee and the wonderful work they did in recruiting these students. There was a second part to that maybe I'll just ask Dr. Tando to speak to as well, which was, has the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion felt that the level of support they can currently provide to our students of color and LGBTQ+ students is effective as when they were here in person? So just to remind everybody, they are still here in person, just on a modified schedule. So we still get a chance to see them and interact, but it is different. So Dean Tando.
Yes, thank you, Dean Zala. It is different, and we would love to have them drop by the office get some coffee, take a little break, but we cannot do that at this time. But I think we continue to be engaged with them, and we have been working very closely with the Office of Medical Student Education, and we meet actually every 2 weeks. We have a group that meet and talk about the issues, especially with our BIPOC students, and how we can help them. So we I think overall is going well so far.
Thank you very much. We have a couple other questions that have come in. I'll just remind you that we have a Q&A feature available. Is there an update on the search for the UVM Cancer Center Director? I'll take this one on. That is moving forward. This is a search that is a combined division head for hematology and oncology and director of the UVM Cancer Center. We have a search committee, we have a search firm, and as of, I believe, last week, we have ads out. I'm really glad this question was asked because we have 224 people joining us right now. And you all must know people in oncology and hematology. And I want to be looking broadly to the most diverse group of candidates we can possibly find. And while search firms can be good, and ads can be good, very often, myself included, you find a job by someone calling you up and mentioning it. So help us find this person, our next cancer center director. But I'm delighted to report that we have a search firm, we have a committee, and we're starting to collect names. Next question is, I recall discussions that the original budget was $90 million. Is this a scaled down, referring to the Firestone building? I think what the person's recalling is a $90 million combined project of the Firestone building and the renovation, including new skin, new roof, and overall renovation of the Gibbon building. Those two have been dissociated in terms of undertaking that cost. So the Firestone building actually was estimated 49. It came in just under 45. The cost for the Gibbon building hasn't been fully priced out, but my bet is it will be more. That was always going to be taken on by the university in terms of deferred maintenance, removal from the books, and other ways, because that was going to involve psychology getting involved, and it was always going to depend on decanting to the Firestone building. So that would be a stage two. Right now, I can't say when that stage two would be undertaken, but I look forward to that day whenever it might occur. There's a question, is there a plan to require faculty and staff in LCOM to return to campus? If working from home is working well, will we be allowed to continue to do so? Brian Cody is on the line. Brian, I might ask you to let us know what insights you have and I and others can share beyond that.
Yeah, thank you, Dean Page. I guess what I would say is that if an individual is working well from home and is able to get their work done, and if they have the support of their supervisor, there really is, from my perspective, no need for the person to be on campus. You know, if your job entails needing to be on campus because you have to, you know, potentially deal with students or you know, you're in a lab running experiments, that's a different situation. But I really think that it really is up to your supervisor and the type of work you actually are doing.
Thank you. And I would just emphasize, we've learned a lot during this time. Our office works fine. Even though I have minimal contact with people in person, we Teams, we Zoom, it's just as if they're right there. There's a question that came up that I'll ask Dean Deschamps to reflect on, and that is, I won't ask you to say whether there will be, but if there is another surge, how would the medical group, the medical center, and then the network respond?
Dean Page and colleagues, good afternoon. The answer is, are we preparing? And the quick answer is yes. And we're leaving very little to luck. From the day that we have called our status re-emergence, we have prepared and we have never stopped preparing. I could name a long list of people. Dr. Wong and Mr. Dillon for the medical group are really spearheading the effort at the medical group level. Mr. Gobey, who is the one of 3 executive vice president, is actually spending most of his time linking us with the governor, with Dr. Levine, and with all the functions and the network to be better prepared. The CMOs in each of the hospital have never worked better than today together to make us ready. Ryan Clauser in the transfer center, the testing effort under Dr. Larner, the pharmacy effort to be able to store future vaccine. This morning we had a meeting with Mr. Gobey, and we are making sure that we're going to have storage capacity for future vaccine when we get a vaccine. Charlie Micheli is already on everything that we need for material and management. Really, the guiding principle are that we need to keep our patients and our providers safe. We need to deliver the care that is expected from us, from the community. And we need to preserve our learning and research mission as best as we can in the circumstances, and we're doing it. The hospitals are doing the best they can. Right now, today, we have no patient at the Academic Medical Center that has COVID, as best as I know from a daily report. There is 5 patients in New York in one of our hospitals at CVPH. So we have to be cognizant that as a network, we do have active patients, but we are prepared. We just transferred a number of patients to the Fanny Allen in rehab. This has freed up space that we will consider if we have a surge. And I can give you more and more an initiative. I think we have never been as coordinated. We have still much to learn. Last night, we met with all the department chairs to share the plan with them and get their input and their concern. So that's ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And congratulations on having that plan. If Gordon Jensen were here, I'd ask him to comment, but likewise, our research facilities are prepared, depending on how bad it might get, as to winding down specific labs, just as we are with clinical care, according to the need, as opposed to closing the door all or none. There were 2 other questions that I had raised to me earlier that I'll mention. One question was, are the Larner College of Medicine unrepresented staff, which is most of the staff in the entire university, the only ones who had the pay cut imposed? And Larner, this is across the board in terms of staff. I will also mention that Provost Prelock commented on the union negotiations. I'm growing impatient. I'm hearing other people are growing impatient as to the rest of the faculty stepping up. From my standpoint, I want to thank again our faculty who took the voluntary cut. I'm glad it was a voluntary cut that was taken under the terms that we made, which was a commitment to the university, but a 1-year cut that was voluntary. I'm hoping that these cuts will not be persistent in general. Again, that's something that's out of my hands. We're running very short on time. In the last moment or two, I really appreciate people being on. I just celebrated my 2nd year with the greatest honor of my professional life, serving as your dean, and working with the people that are on this call, both in the panel and those of you who have tuned in. I appreciate the fact that this is a team working together. I recognize things have been tough. I'll always tell you the truth, and I'll always advocate for you, but these things are tough. They're tough all over. And I am confident we will get through this and we will come out better and stronger. And I think we need to look toward that. I will mention that our own Mark Nelson is speaking To the NIH, Francis Collins, I believe, may be introducing him this afternoon, so congratulate to him. We will try to stay in touch with you through periodic town halls, through emails from me, through Larner Medicine, which I hope you're looking at, because there is still a lot to celebrate. And from my standpoint, I ask you to take care of yourselves, take care of the ones you love. And I want to thank you for everything you do for the college. And thank you for tuning in today, and let's stay in touch. And thank you to our panelists today. Bye now.